Your media, where you are. And in the bedroom, you have to be jack of all trades, wearing a different hat when the moment arises. You're on all the time, always on the clock, always catching up. Take care of you. Introducing Your Media, your podcast network that meets you where you are, when you need it, at your time, in your space, when you feel like it. You come first. Your Media, where you are. With every moment, you are creating an impression. Make sure it's an impression by design. This is the Transcript with Tshiamo.
I honestly cannot get used to hearing this. Thank you so much. If you're listening to my voice, it's obviously a Sunday, and wherever you are, I'm saying happy Sunday. You're listening to the Transcript with me, Tshiamo Mudisane. And today I'm joined in studio by a woman who I grew up watching and I'm in awe of. I'm getting teary. Honestly, like I am joined by someone who has created her own path and just managed to just walk gracefully. In studio joining me today is TV presenter, radio presenter, author, I think.
Well, I've contributed some writing.
Yes. And now yoga
teacher in training.
Teacher in training.
Yes, ma'am.
Melanie Bala.
Hi, Tshiamo.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Awesome.
Firstly, thank you for coming.
Pleasure. Can't wait. I think we're going to have lots of fun.
Definitely. Definitely. So the title for today's topic is What I Know Now. And it's purely just a conversation on things you've learned, things you've experienced, and how you've managed to just create your own path.
Yeah.
And just to give context, this is something I Googled and I found out. I was just like, oh, that you were born and bred in Pretoria.
Through and through. I'm a capital city girl.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Born, raised, schooled, most of my family's still there. So Pretoria's home. And I love, if it wasn't for the traffic, I probably would still live in Pretoria and work in Johannesburg because I love it that much.
I studied a bit in Pretoria and I just realized that Pretorians are more accommodating and just more friendly. I know they say PE is the friendly city, but I find Pretoria is also like very friendly. Like everyone there's just in it to have a good time and just like
we love a good time. We do. And I mean, you're very right. I think that is part of what has shaped me growing up in Pretoria. It's a very unpretentious city. And I think that is a big difference for me between Pretoria and Johannesburg, for example. Pretoria is very unpretentious. I used to go clubbing in like jeans, tackies, and a t-shirt. And
that's Pretoria.
We're just there for the good time. We're there for the music and for your friends and the drinks and all those things, babe. So that is definitely what has kind of shaped me into who I am, because I think we're friendly, we are accommodating, we're open, people are just people, you know? So yeah, definitely Pretoria is a thing in my life.
So while doing my research as well, and obviously I stumbled now upon that you're from Pretoria, I also stumbled upon the fact that you are actually from a mixed race family. And I was like, this is amazing.
Very mixed.
Because I was like, and I sat down and I was like, what? Dad is Chinese, mom is colored. That must have been like, and for me, I had to like take my mind back into like post pre-democracy.
Yes.
So how was that like, especially in Pretoria? Because I'm just like, firstly, Pretoria is very white dominated.
Yeah.
Now, on top of that, you have like a whole mixed race family.
The stories I could tell you, it was interesting. In hindsight, I can say it was really interesting. At the time, there were some really difficult moments. So back in the day, my parents had to get permission to get married, right? Because he was one race and she was another, so they couldn't just get married. And growing up, because of the Group Areas Act, where my parents grew up in Marabastad in Pretoria, with the Group Areas Act, everybody was kind of moved to different areas. And so the Chinese people in Pretoria were moved to an area called Claremont, which is Pretoria West. Very low income, very white, very Afrikaans. So I don't know how they thought that was going to be a great idea, putting a whole bunch of Chinese people into this neighborhood with people who just were not happy to see them. So there were fights, arguments, constant battles to everything, to get service, to, just live, basically, to exist. But I always say, for me, that was really one of the greatest training grounds for standing up for myself. My dad always used to say to us, don't let anyone ever think that they're better than you. And you're not better than them. You're equal. Yeah. You're equal, regardless of color, regardless of economic privilege, regardless of anything. You're as good as the next person. And so having those little micro battles that you're having to fight, whether it's at school, whether it's, on the bus, whether it's wherever, at the shop trying to get service, that literally taught myself and my siblings to stand up for ourselves and for each other. And to a degree, I think that's very much where my sense of justice comes from, in terms of, people shouldn't be treated differently just because of the color of their skin, because I've lived it and I've experienced it. The upside to being mixed race is I had the most multicultural background, which was incredible. I literally, one weekend we're celebrating Chinese New Year. My mom's mom was Muslim, and a large part of my family on that side is Muslim. So the next weekend we're celebrating Eid. Oh, wow. And then, my dad's friends from Botswana would come across. So it was really this mixed environment that, almost to a degree, in as much as you knew apartheid was there and existed and was happening, it was like this little enclave of people, like-minded people, who all got along, who saw each other for who they were, and gave me the most amazing experiences.
I want to touch on something you mentioned, like, the challenges in school and so forth. I want to know, when did it click to you? Because obviously when you're growing up between the ages of like 2 and I assume maybe 5 or 6, life is, or the world is just fun. Yeah. When did that click or switch happen, where you had to pause and be like, oh, this is not, like, we're no longer playing. Sure. This is how people see me? Or did you have a conversation with your mom? Or, that, how did you go?
Let me tell you a wild story. So back in the day, I suppose they're the Freedom Front Plus, but back in the day, they were the Conservative Party, political party. And because of where we lived, which was a CP area, the one day I went to the post box to get the post. And I pull out and there's a flyer. I think it was like just pre-local election, what we'd call now local government elections, by-elections or whatever. And I go and get the post and I pull out the post and I go through it. I must have been 10, maybe just under 10. And the CP has printed one of their pamphlets. This is part of their electioneering. And in the pamphlet is a story about my mom and dad and about how this thing is absolutely horrifically wrong. And this is how society is going to degenerate, because mixed, people of different races shouldn't get married. And not only are they married, but they're living in this neighborhood. And that was what they were, one of the things they were campaigning on. And I remember looking at it and being like, but that's my dad's name and that's my mom's name. And I remember it kind of, that's when the penny kind of was like, oh, okay, it's larger than just this neighborhood. It's, if it's serious in inverted commas, enough for them to put it into a pamphlet. And
100%.
It's bigger, it's larger, it's this thing. And I remember going and giving the pamphlet to my mom, and I didn't actually say anything to her because I didn't know how to. I'd be like, hey, look, in here. Yeah. I just I gave it to her and I was like, oh, this thing is in here. And I remember her looking through it and she also didn't. So we didn't speak about that specifically. But I think for me, that became a turning point of being like, oh, okay, wow. This is our lives that they're talking about and that they're making examples of. And it's weird to read about it when in your household, it's just you and your mom and your dad and your brother 100%. And your sisters and you're living a life and it's fun.
Yeah. Because that's the world you know. That's your truth.
That's the world you know.
And you're a middle child.
Actually, I was the last born for a while until my baby sister came along, the Latlaniki, 11 years later. So.
Oh, I love it when a last born is moved up, because then it's just like, yes, now you're one of us.
I was like, wow, I got demoted just like that. I was like, okay.
And how's that been? Like, how's it navigating just like being a sister?
It's, I had the best childhood. Like we fought like cats and dogs as well
100%.
with my siblings, as you do. But we always covered up for each other and we always backed each other up.
Mm-hmm.
So we might argue and fight and, whatever else. Then when your mom comes in, you're like, nothing. What's up? Nothing.
Yeah.
You're covering up for them.
100%.
But we're extremely close. We're a very tight family. We lost my brother about 15 years ago. So it's just myself and my two sisters. But we're thank you. We're very, very close. Even before that, we just, we were the type of like siblings. We got jolling together. That was us on the weekends in Pretoria.
Nice thing about having, like a family with like lots of siblings.
Yeah, there was 2 years between myself and my brother, and 2 years between him and my older sister.
Oh, vibes.
So we were always out, like on a Friday night, like the whole gang would go.
100%.
And that's actually how I, don't tell anybody this, but that's how I landed up starting to go clubbing when I was like 14. Because
okay, we don't advise that now.
Don't try this at home. Because I was with my older sibling.
100%. And the times were different as well.
Very much so.
Yeah.
But we had a great time. We looked out for each other, and we still do. There's a deep bond that and you can't describe it. It's unshakable. It's my sisters are my everything.
So I'm going to pose this question: say lessons learned from your big sister, your now late brother, and your younger sister.
Gosh, I'd say I'll group the older two together, like I say, because we were so close in age, right? Okay. It was about that. It was about standing up for yourself and for each other and standing up for what's right. Because often we would fight those battles I was talking about together. So, like the running joke in our family is that I'm the like calm, peaceful one. The other three would have stepped up to you now. Like they won't ask for details. They won't say what happened, Mel. They're there.
Yeah.
Because that's how tight we were. And it was like, you've got to have each other's back. So I think from those two, that was the big lesson. That's why we were so tight. That's why we had a bond. And we literally could speak about everything and anything. There really was a closeness that I hope in turn I'm kind of trying to foster with my own children, as siblings. From my younger sister, like I say, 11 years, so it's a big gap. By the time she kind of became a person, I was moving out of home already, when she was kind of going into high school and stuff. Yeah. So
they're trying to catch up to you and they're trying to be like,
always wanted to be with us. Yeah. No, you cannot come for coffee with us. You're 11. Calm down. So we kind of separated a bit, but we found our way back to each other once she was in her early 20s. And from her, I'd say the lesson is to follow your heart. So she met someone and moved across to America, got married.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and was there for a couple of years, is back now. But I think it was a big lesson in just saying, you know what, Ma, and I was like, are you sure? I mean, are you sure? And she was like, I don't know, but I've got to try.
100%.
And I was like, oh, look at you all grown up.
I think for me, that part is what I'm doing with like last year and this year. Just like, I don't know, but try is what I will do. It's my year. It's been my 2 years. Are we counting 2020 as a year?
No.
So this year's my year of yes.
Yes,
I'm
first year.
100%. I'm in it. Whatever if we're going left, we're going left.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I want to know if you could stand outside of your life and look into like your life, right? How would you best describe your youth?
My youth.
So maybe let's say from ages, let's say, from school, like 10, let's say from 10 to maybe like 18.
Quiet. I was the quiet kid at school. Very much so. So my older siblings were the sociable, well-known, everyone in Pretoria knew them, loved vibing with them. So they were like that's how I was known around Pretoria for a really long time. It was like, aren't you sewing sister? Or aren't you sewing sister? Because they were just the two. So I was the quiet kid. I love to read. So I'd always be in my books, reading my books, my dad's books, my mom's magazines, my anything I could get my hands on. And I really was. I was like really shy, really shy. If you ask anyone who went to school with me, the fact that I do what I do, they'd be like, Mel, are you sure? I wasn't in drama. I wasn't in debating. I wasn't in I did none of that stuff because I was incredibly shy as a kid. So quiet and yes, shy. Those are the 2 words.
And what has that experience propelled you in now when you look at it, you're like, okay, because I was shy, it shielded me from this and this and this, or it pushed me to do this and this and this.
What did I get out of it? Interesting question. I don't know. I would say to realize, I think maybe I was a little bit too much in my own head, right? Which is something that I can still fall victim to, where I become so in my own head that the rest of the world kind of dissipates and disappears. And I'd say the lesson from that, and it's an ongoing lesson for me, is that even though by nature I might want to retreat and be home and with my book or with my kids, or, it's to force myself to say, look at the great things that have happened in your life when you've stepped outside of what you know, and force myself to actually get out there, go out there, do more, try more new things. Like you say, a year of yes, a year of just being like, yeah, okay, let's give this a bash, So I'd say that's probably the takeaway I've gotten from that.
Can I give you my takeaway from watching you? Grace.
Aww.
I feel like, you've for someone who's been in the industry as long as you have, and as I mentioned earlier on, that while doing my research for the episode, I was Googling and Googling and Googling and Googling, and not one scandal popped up. And, and I'm just like, this is something, sometimes you just, before you even finish writing the surname or the name, already Google is giving you 100%. And with you, there was no such a thing, and I think for me watching, it's just like you've lived your life with pure grace. Everything you've done has been graceful. And, that's the taste I can say for you.
I'll accept that. Thank you. But I think I want to be real with you and say, it's not that I haven't done some crazy things in my life.
100%.
Like I say, it's just, now I realize in hindsight, I'm really glad my generation, we grew up pre-internet. They were but we'd have to tell each other what happened. We couldn't go online. I'd have to call you and be like, babe, I was out last night. You won't believe what I saw. Or,
100%.
That's how news spread. And that's why there isn't really a record of not only myself, but my entire generation of the things that we got up to. And in keeping it real, like I say, I've made mistakes. I've done things that I regret. But yeah, I think I've always kept my eye on hopefully the bigger picture and just being like, right, how am I navigating through this life thing and hoping to make better choices, even if I did mess up, can we swear on the show?
You can.
Even if we did fuck up, how do we make better choices going forward? Because I think that is a big lesson. How do we make better choices
100%,
going forward?
100%. And okay, so you stepped into the industry when you were 18, if I'm correct.
Yeah, 17 turning 18.
Now, okay, you just mentioned that during that same time you were quiet and shy. Now you're stepping into media, and media is not a place where you can be quiet and shy. How did you get the thought or the idea? How was that? And when you already found yourself inside, how has the journey been?
Gosh, so I landed up in it by complete accident, really. So I finished school, and at school I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. So I signed up. I did my first year through UNISA because I didn't get into UCT, which was my first choice.
Mine too.
I thought I'd live my best life in Cape Town, but it was no. So I did my first year through UNISA. But probably about 8 months into it, I was like, I don't know about this thing. It doesn't look anything like the law shows I've seen on TV. It's not as glamorous. It's all this Latin and all this reading. I was just like, so there was this dis-ease with it, but also I didn't know how to tell my dad because I was just like, how am I going to say to him, bruh, I don't want to do this anymore. Because also I didn't know what else I wanted to do.
Okay.
I knew it wasn't law, but I didn't know what else.
Okay.
And then I'm a TV kid. You get people who say, "Oh, I don't watch television." I love television. Like,
guilty.
I grew up, like, I used to be
Guilty.
at the TV 5 o'clock in the afternoons when TV started. I used to be sitting there because I was just fascinated by it. And I remember then, during that year of studying law or whatever, in the newspaper, I came across an advert for continuity presenters. Mnet was looking for continuity presenters. And I thought, okay. Yeah, like a little light bulb went off.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to my dad, listen, so there's this thing, it's happening in Johannesburg. Would you be able to take me? And he said, yeah. So we drove through to Randburg for the audition. I didn't get it. They probably were like, why is this kid wearing a suit that is too big for her? Because I was trying to be impressive with this formal suit.
Not a formal.
They're probably like, shame, poor thing. So I auditioned, didn't get it. And I thought, okay, maybe it's not for me. And then a couple of months later, I'm not sure if it was the same agency that they used or who was doing the auditions, but I then got a call from an agency saying, we saw your tape. Would you be keen to try out for something else? And I went, yeah, okay. And that's how I got the opportunity to audition for Bob TV back in the day. Mm-hmm. So I flew up to Bob, did the audition, came back. And about a week after that, they said to me, you've got the job. You need to pack up and move to Mabatu and come and work. And I actually was convinced that my dad would say no. Because like I say, I was 17.
Yeah, 100%.
And I thought, I'm going to tell him this. And he's going to go, are you out of your mind? And spoke to him when he got back from work that day. And he went, okay, so they're going to give you somewhere to stay? I said, yeah. They said, they're paying you? I said, yeah. And he said, okay, cool. You can go. And I was like so shocked. But I packed up and moved. I think it was in February of 92. I moved to Mabatu, and that's where I started. Yeah.
Given that experience, what would you say your I don't want to say lesson, but what was your take on how would you best describe that using destiny? What is your opinion on, description of destiny using that small
little ad in the paper? Yeah, I think sometimes destiny doesn't look like you think it's going to look like. So that's one thing. And then there's a great quote. I don't remember it exactly, but so I'm going to paraphrase. But it says that it's something along the lines of, the destiny of your life is not made known by like huge bells and whistles and trumpets. And, when you make these decisions that alter the course of your life, it's often in the very small little choices you make.
100%.
And I think that has resonated for me over the years, where there was no like, I want to be on television. There was no moment like that. It literally was just this little thing about saying, I think this is something I could do. And when the opportunity came up to say, okay, I want to do this. I'm not sure where it's going to go.
Yes.
I might be awful at it. I might only be there 6 months and then they send me packing, but I'm going to try. And so I think it is that the lesson is sometimes you may not see the end. I mean, I never thought I'd still be doing this close to 30 years later. I really didn't. At the time, it was like, this is great. It's my first job. I'm getting paid. I'm learning about an industry that I like. And I'm having fun. And so you kind of go into it with those small choices, but that are part of the bigger picture. And sometimes you don't need to know what the big picture
100%.
is.
I think for me, navigating life, I've always said that for growing up, I've always been a person of faith. And, as a child, you say things, you're just saying things like, oh, I want to drive that car one day.
Yeah.
And it's only when you find yourself in that car that you go,
whoa,
wait a minute, I spoke this. And having that experience has taught me, like, sometimes it's not about, being at the right place at the right time, but allowing yourself to be somewhere because life will, your destiny will find you. Yeah,
it'll meet you there.
100%.
No, you're right. Because wouldn't we all love that? We'd all love to say, okay, I want to go down this path, and someone gives you the end result and says, here we go. If 100%. You go down this path, you're going to get that job, you'll make so much money, and in 5 years, we'd love that, but that's not how it works. So you've got to have that faith that, okay, let's go.
This is beautiful. It's very beautiful. So now we are, obviously we've got a job and everything. I want to know the first time you walked on set, right? At Bob, for Bob TV.
Yeah.
And meeting, obviously, now the late Bob Mabena. How was that?
Yeah. So funny enough, I always used to tease Bob that he actually had left. The reason I got the job was because he left. So we actually never met there.
Oh,
Our paths,
okay.
literally just like ran short of each other, right? Because he decided he was moving to Johannesburg. That's how the opening for the job came up.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. So we never actually worked together in Bob. It was only then when I came to Johannesburg and started Studio Mix and, that sort of stuff.
We're going there.
But yeah, I mean, that first, back then, I think I got like a day's training.
And it's normally just like stand here, wait for the red light.
When it goes on and talk to that camera. And it was like, oh, okay. And then they fitted me for an earpiece. And I remember like that first 1 or 2 episodes where the director's talking in your ear. And I was just like, what is going on? Where? Like, it was so confusing. But I had the team that was doing the show I was on was young, which was great because, they kind of understood and we were supportive of each other. And I always tease the producer who I still see now and again, that when I'd gone up for my audition, I saw her in the bathroom. So she's this really petite woman, really short, petite. And I remember saying to her in the bathroom, like, I think I actually voiced it out loud. That's how awkward I was. I was like, oh my God, you're so tiny. And I remember her looking at me like, So then when I came back and I got the job and they were like, this is your
option.
Yeah, when I came back and I got the job and they were like, this is the producer. I said to her, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. And she was like, no. And we actually became great friends. Like we traveled overseas together and all sorts of stuff. But it was the most amazing environment to learn in. It really was. I always say Bob was it was like a broadcasting university. We had better equipment at Bob TV than they did here at the SABC in Johannesburg because it was independent, in inverted commas, an independent country. So they used to throw money at like technology. And then they started with like workshops and script writing and presenting and used to bring in people from Johannesburg or overseas. And so it really was like this great training ground to understand broadcasting. And I think that's also where I started to dip my toes into radio because I did some radio as well at Bob, but it interfered with my weekends. So I was like, I don't want to do this thing. I can't party because I must go read the news. What do you mean?
Not on a Saturday.
I was like, this thing. So then I like dropped that. But like I said, I learned so much from so many incredible people during that time.
Who were you looking up to?
In television.
And just in life during that time growing up, who were the people you admired apart from your elder siblings?
It's interesting that because back then, right, you only knew about famous people, what they wanted you to know. The level of access was very different to what it is now, right? So you literally might only see someone on the cover of a magazine and think, oh, she's pretty. But that's all you knew about her.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I couldn't play. So I guess it would have been the same, like maybe an actor. I'm trying to think who.
Like there wasn't a transcript to just like.
No, to get to know
100%.
Someone, I do remember, like I say, in my teens then, early teens, I would say it was probably someone like a Doreen Morris on Mnet, who was, a Black continuity presenter. And, this was, like you say, pre-democracy.
Yeah, 100%.
And it was like, whoa, look at her. She's amazing. Look at what she's doing. I didn't know much else about her. Maybe she was on the cover of the local U magazine or whatever, once every 2 years or whatever. But so someone like that, I would say definitely was someone I looked up to and said, oh, okay, she's doing this thing. She's doing this thing, so it can be done.
So I just want to ask you the few questions. We've given context to your family and your childhood.
Yeah.
What does family mean to you?
Oh, everything. It's everything. It's every single damn thing, at my lowest, at my highest, at my weakest, at my happiest, at my everything. Family is who I turn to. And it's that bond of like I say, because we were all so tight, and with my parents as well, that no matter what was going on in your life, you knew, I was always say, I grew up, my dad used to say to us when we were teenagers going out, if you're ever stuck, call me. I'll come pick you up. Doesn't matter where you are. Doesn't matter what time, because that was the level of trust we had in him and he in us. If I got into a fight at school, my mother was like, I'm getting in the car and I'm coming to the school to sort it out. She had my back like that. And so all those things together, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, because I know some people don't have that sort of bond with their families, and they aren't that close. And I think it's such a shame. I just, and particularly within Chinese culture, family is everything. Your family is where respect starts and stops. You do things to honor your parents. How you live your life, the decisions you make, how you conduct yourself is very much about, you don't want to bring shame to your family. And so that also is a big thing. So that's how, when you say, what is family? It's everything, man.
That's deep. And what is race?
A construct that those who feel they are superior have kind of hammered into us that it matters, when I don't think it does. We're all the same. When you get down to the DNA of it, we're all exactly the same. And so race is loaded because of the structures that have made it be so. And we can't disregard it at all. But it's heavy and it's layered. And I think particularly in South Africa, the first time I went overseas was in December of 92. No, I lie. Yes, December of 92. And I went overseas and someone said to me, what are you? And I said, oh, I'm colored, colored Chinese. And they said, what is that?
And it's funny because in South Africa, color is an actual race.
Yes. And I went, oh. So I was like, okay, I need to reframe it so that they can understand.
100%.
So I had to find the language to say, well, actually, so this and this and that. And they went, oh, okay, got it. But that was also a moment for me, because then I realized, this thing we're doing back here in South Africa, where we're calling people colored based on like some random man who decided on a piece of paper that this is what makes colored people. Really was like, I knew it was crap. But then when you go out into the world and they reinforce that, I know this thing is nonsense. It really was just like, yeah, we that divide and conquer rule, they really pulled a good one on us as a people in this country. The divide and conquer by saying you have a little bit more rights than the next person because your skin tone is a little lighter or whatever. And it's a construct.
We were talking about race, and it's so interesting because for me, it's just like, I think of you as colored.
Yeah.
And only until upon doing my research did I realize that actually you're mixed. And I remember having a conversation with someone where we were talking, it was like a candid conversation, but we're talking about, so my mom was colored and my dad's Tswana. But then also I'm looking at like Trevor. And someone was saying like, yeah, but for colored people, Trevor's done well. And I'm like, but Trevor's not colored, Trevor's mixed. And they're like, what do you mean he's colored? I'm like, no. You get mixed when there's your mom's, like when it's two different races that come together, it's mixed. And colored for me is your mom's colored, your dad's colored. Just like you'd have a Zulu mom and a Sotho mom and whatever, you'd be, black. So I find that like interesting how you're putting it into your perspective.
Sure. That's what I think it's, that's what I'm saying. It's such a unique situation here that because of the entrenchment of apartheid and the laws and the way it was enforced, that mixed race people, colored people, evolved their own culture. It evolved into its own culture. There are things that are very specifically culturally colored.
100%.
Right. So if you took Trevor and you dropped him off in a colored neighborhood, he wouldn't fit in.
100%.
That's not his experience.
Yes.
That's not what he grew up with. you know, and he doesn't know what a khadat is, or he doesn't know, you know, like it's not his frame of reference.
Yeah.
And so being colored in South Africa is a very specific cultural experience that isn't shared with someone who is Black. Those experiences are two different things.
Yes.
And like you say, and then someone who's mixed race won't understand the colored experience and won't understand the Black experience because
100%.
it's something else.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And what is religion or spirituality? And I'm asking this in context of having obviously Chinese heritage, Muslim heritage, and now you're, you know, yoga. So which means you're very much into spirituality and finding your center. So what is spirituality and religion
to me? You see, religion is problematic. That's what I believe.
100%.
Spirituality is divine. It's love. It's endless. It's omnipresent. And I think that's just based on, I mean, you know, you look at a lot of the nonsense that's perpetrated in the world, and it's based on religion, right? So the religion is the man-made expression of what the divine wants us to do. Okay. And I think when you go down to the root of it across a lot of religions, what the divine wants us to do is the same thing.
100%.
To love one
another.
Right.
100%.
But then that man-made expression of it through religion is where the problem, where wars have been fought, people
100%.
have been killed, women have been subjugated. All these things are in the name of religion.
Yeah.
And I have such an open mind, I think, because as you say, that's how I grew up. You know, when we went to the Chinese side of the family, there are things that we did that had Buddhism in it. My grandmother, who Afrikaans from Kalfinia in the Northern Cape, was an NG Kerk member. I went to Catholic school, but my parents were Anglican. But on Sundays, we went to my grandmother, who was Muslim, for Eid, and, you know, we had to make sure when we cooked the food was halal. And so I grew up with this really broad experience of religion. And when it comes down to it, people are people. And so I was able to see the good in people and the bad in people, regardless of religion, because they're good Christians, bad Christians, good Muslims, bad Muslims, like across the board, people are people. Sometimes they hide behind the religion, right, to excuse behavior, but people are people. And I think that multicultural, multi-denominational approach, in a sense, just reinforced, like I say, what my parents taught me, what I was experiencing around tolerance. I often say, I think sometimes in the world today, we just don't have enough tolerance, you know, for people who are different to us. And it's in that difference, if you're wise enough to actually learn from someone, right? So you'll sit
100%.
and you'll be like, okay, this person's different. You could either say, I don't want to hear what he's got to say because he believes, you know, or you could actually say, tell me more. And at least try and find out, at least try and delve and get deeper into it so that you can understand, okay, actually, I don't agree with you, or maybe there are elements of you that I agree with, or maybe,
100%.
you know, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So that is my view on religion generally. Spirituality, I think, has been a feature more over the last, I'll be honest, since my brother died. Because that, I think, for me was a turning point in how I viewed religion.
I think death does that. I think
very much
death,
so.
as much as it's one thing that takes away, you know, the gift it gives you is a reflection. You get to sit and say, okay, wait. You know?
Wait.
Yes, like
everything just wait.
100%. Yeah.
And so and you know, and that's what I'm saying. I know people meant well. So, you know, when someone passes and they go, well, God had other plans for them, or, you know, and I know people mean well.
Yeah.
But it's also like, I don't know about this plan of you.
100%. And I think that's one thing we don't do. Like, I normally will tell people when I like look at stories or whatever and see someone has lost a loved one, I'll always just be like, my condolences, and it's okay to be angry at God.
Yes, because there are phases that you go through in grief.
100%.
Absolutely. And like I say, so since then, I think I've been on a bit of not that I was hectically, like I say, religious Anglican or whatever when I was younger, but I think I've been on a journey slowly, but trying to just find what makes sense for me. And I think more people need to do that. You need to find what don't religiously, pardon the pun, follow some dogma or some belief or some, you know, whatever else. Find what works for you. If that is in traditional Catholicism, great, but find what works for you. And for me, I've tended to pull from different religions the things that resonate with me. And like I said to you, I think if you believe in the divine and what he wants for us, and so even in my yoga training, that feeds back to the fact that we're all one. We share a consciousness, we share an energy, we share this planet. We are one.
100%.
And so that's what informs my spiritual beliefs.
I think on our next podcast, now part 2, we're going to have yoga, because I need to understand how the tree, like, I'm like, which part of the tree is this
supposed to be? Oh my gosh, not my favorite pose, tree pose, but okay.
But this is so interesting, and we've like now totally on the other side.
Thank you so much, everyone.
But okay, so now you still at Bob, and you've learned so much. When was the time, or when did you know it was time to now move?
Gosh, so pre-94, pre-democracy, things were getting a little wild in Mabatsu. We remember we had Eugene Tad Blanche on his horsemen who were coming to Ventersdorp and wherever to cause havoc. And there just was a lot of uncertainty, I think, just generally there and around the country about what was going to happen, because the way it was framed and the way it was like South Africa's on like a knife's edge. Like, okay, Mandela's been released, but there's meant to be elections, but half the country doesn't want the elections and the other half does. And so there was just a lot of uncertainty. So I started to say, I think I need to get out of here. And again, destiny, fate made itself known. Someone called me up and said, listen, there's a new program they're starting at the SABC. Would you be keen? I said, yes, I would be. And I actually didn't even audition. I just sent one of the tapes of the shows that I did. I said, here, take this tape with you back to Johannesburg.
When you're good, you're good.
And they did. And then they called me and offered me the job. And I was out of there in I think it was 5 weeks. They were like, from when I was like, you're going to get the job, to when I left was about 5 weeks.
I love this because it's literally a story on destiny. Because even how you got your first job is just like, come next week, you're starting, and it's like go. Come, we'll go. You never have like that hurry up and wait phase of stuff. And that's, for me, a testimony of just like destiny. And there's a quote Oprah likes to say that when you say something, the universe, when you're on the same wavelength as, the universe, it will always meet you there and things will come together.
It conspires in your favor.
100%.
Always.
100%. Oh, this is so deep. So now you're at studio. Is this now the job studio mix?
And studio mix.
It's now the introduction to proper the industry.
So Bob TV was regional. So you got it in Tabanshu, in Mabatsu, in where else? Soshanguve, Mabubani. It was regional. Yeah. So there were a few people who could get it. When I went onto the SABC, the first Friday night, I think maybe the Saturday or the Sunday, whatever, I was out and people were like, I didn't
100%.
And I was like, whoa, this is because before that I'd had a certain level of anonymity. And as much as I was doing television, because it was regional, the reach wasn't as big.
Yeah, you could go home.
Yeah, and also not have someone recognize you in a supermarket. So after that first sort of week, then couple of weeks, and then months, as the program gained traction and whatever, it just, it became like, whoa, it's a lot.
And how did you handle it? Because now, and I'm asking this in the context of saying, earlier you mentioned how you were first known as your sibling's younger sister. So now the wheels have turned and your elder siblings are now being told, oh, isn't that your sister? How is that what's happening in your mind?
They used to tease me relentlessly about it. Oh my God, you're on TV. It's hilarious. I'd be like, yes, relax. It was an interesting transition. My dad was so silly. He was so full of fun that I remember once we went to, I think it was the Hyperama or something, man. So I'm walking down, the aisle, we're doing grocery shopping or whatever. Now he's across the frozen food section. I just hear his voice, excuse me, aren't you the girl from TV? I was like, what are you doing? What is wrong with you? Because he was fascinated by this whole world. was like, calm. I'm going to need you to calm down.
Turn it down a notch.
You're at a 10. I need you at a 2. Stop. So anyway, it was really weird, but fun at the same time. Again, new space, new people, new environment, learning new things, and starting to realize the impact on the scale of the public broadcaster, which is usually different, and it's massive. It's massive. So yeah, fun.
When did it click that you're no longer in Mabato?
Like I say, relatively that first couple of weeks, relatively quickly. You know, I moved. I was still staying at home, so I moved back to Pretoria, and I was traveling every day. Yeah, it was a lot. So I was traveling every day for the first couple of months, and then eventually I was just like, okay, I can't do that anymore. But my life started to be more in Johannesburg, just work-wise, friends-wise. You know, and when you're 19, 20, like you're just living your best life. So like I say, it wasn't an overnight thing. It was like this realization over a couple of weeks that, okay, life is changing a little bit here. You know, more people know who I am. More people are recognizing me. I'm getting invited to like things that, you know, I'm now on a guest list, obviously of some sort, somewhere.
100%.
You know, so those sorts of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you had like for a good, I think it was 10 years, proper, like you were like the it girl. Like you were like the Bonang of like the early 90s.
I think so. You know, we were a really small group in the sense of, so it was the people who presented shows, and then it was the actual continuity presenters.
100%.
So your Claire Mawisas, your Felicity Shiba, your, you know, Caroline Fassi, your
Zandine Klapo, yeah.
Yes, you know, it was like this,
Dixie.
and we were all more or less the same age-ish. And so it was just a lot of fun. Like, you know, wherever you went, you knew someone you used to just have the best time, man. The best time.
And I was working with Bob, like the few times I've had times to like interact with Bob Mabena was just amazing. Like I've never, and what I liked and appreciated the most about him is he was never one to lead with his name. Like he never lived in this, I'm Bob Mabena, you know, which I think for me was like, it's possible, you know, and I think that's one thing I enjoy most about, I'm gonna use the word veteran entertainers, is that it's not in your head.
No.
To you, it's a job, and the moment the director says cut, you go back into your life. However, nowadays, I mean, there are people who've got like 1 million followers on Instagram and don't have anything else other than that. But to them, it's just like, do you know who I am?
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, if there are people who are actually doing something, why can't we all like, you know, switch off?
It's so interesting that, like, you know what the fundamental difference is? It's the younger generation is a performative generation, right? So if you don't perform it, it didn't happen.
100%.
So it's look at me having a drink, look at me having a sushi, look at me having a this, that, and this is coming from a place of no judgment.
100%. No, 100%. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's a generation that grew up watching YouTube, that, you know, saw the rise of reality TV and reality TV stars and what comes with it. And so there's it just is so, back then, you know, I like you said, I used to finish the show on a Friday night at 10 o'clock. And then because I worked in production, I'd have to carry the tapes back to the office after you saw me on TV presenting, and make sure that we'd logged whatever, and make sure the office was locked up, and then get home, and, you know, and Monday I'd be back, or Saturday I'd have a shoot and I'd be out shooting or whatever else. And there was no glam squad, and there was no, you know,
there was no glam squad?
No, baby. Like,
I
had a makeup artist on a Friday night.
Oh, okay.
Anything else we shot outside of that, I had to do my own face.
Oh,
for in
okay.
the week,
Okay.
right?
I'm thinking like in general, I'm just like, what we're not going to do.
There was a makeup, that was it. There was no stylist. There was no, I used to do my hair in Hillbrow. So I'd go to the salon at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon to do my hair. So I'd be finished in time. So I can get back to studio so that I could get into the makeup chairs but there was no glam about the whole experience. And I think that's why the older generation is the way we are, because we we didn't get that. And also we valued our privacy so intensely.
100%.
And it's so, for me, it's interesting to watch my generation of people struggle with social media. Like, and we'll have this chat and I'll be like, bruh, you posted like 4 months ago. What's happening? And he's like, this thing, I don't understand this thing, I can't do it, because we valued our privacy so much that we didn't let anyone in. And this generation is all about letting everyone in all the time.
100%.
So it's really interesting to watch. But I think we you are a product of your time, whether it's then or now or whatever else. And there's nothing wrong or right about it.
And I think I'm often thinking I'm probably like, I was born in the wrong time, and I'm still, because that's how I live my life. Like, I'm just like, this is a job, and now and then, like, I remember the one time I was in Pick and Pay, and this lady came to me and said, aren't you? And I was like, nope.
Oh, wow.
Nope, that is not me. And they're like, no, but you're, I'm like, definitely
you denied it.
Not me. Nope. I get this all the time, and to me, it's just like, I need to switch off. Like, I need to be at a place where it's not in my head. Because then I'll walk around and just be like, do you know who I am? If it's groove, like if I'm trying to get into a club and I'm not trying to pay,
then you might be like, hey.
Then I'll be like, hey, But other than that, for the real things, not really. Like, I value my privacy.
Yeah, it's like I said, for me, it's fascinating to watch. It really is. And again, because my friends will say to me, "Jeebus, you're always on social, like you always."
And you are.
But I'm not, though.
No, Mel, I will post something in 30 seconds. Mel's just like, I'm like, wow, Mel.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I'm on social media a lot, but I guess what I'm trying to say is how I use it.
100%.
I've kind of come to a happy place with me. Not everybody knows what's going on in my life. What you know is because I want you to know.
100%.
I'm not at the point where I'm posting every single second, because that just isn't me. And I think it then becomes inauthentic if I'm trying to force something that is fundamentally not part of my character or personality or whatever else. So, you find your little groove or your little niche and how you want to use it and play with stuff, and that's what you do. Most people probably know 10% of my life. It might feel like you see me doing a lot of, but it's literally maybe 10%.
100%.
Because that's the 10% I want to share.
100%.
And particularly with kids, you want to be careful. So even them, when they were younger, I would post pics or whatever. Now they're like, Mom, please don't post me. I'm like, okay. And then I have to respect that.
Yes, 100%.
So there's a lot of my life that people don't see. And that's okay, because I also, like you say, I like being private. I like having private time. Because for me, and I think that's always been the case, is that's my boundary. Because if I let you over that boundary, if something bad happens, you're also going to say, but 2 seconds ago,
100%.
you were doing whatever.
Yeah.
And personally, for me, I don't want to have to explain myself or my decisions when it comes to my personal life. So I think that's also why I've always just had that line that I don't cross.
And given that, given the whole privacy and, how did you then manage your relationship being? Because when you and Zwei started dating, it was just like, Mel and Zwei, like every red carpet, we needed those it was I remember growing up, it was what's her name, Kansani and Zam, Mel and Zwei, Thamla and Candy, who else, and then obviously Basi and Romeo. And then who was the fifth one? I'm trying to remember the fifth. Oh, Bob and at the time Zandi Lenzala.
Yes, Zandi Lenzala. Yeah.
So those were the top 5 couples you would look out for at a red carpet. And this is now me giving my age and exposing how much of entertainment I was in. But those are the people. Like, if you had an event and you didn't have those 5 couples, or 3 of those 5 out of those 5 couples,
it wasn't happening.
It wasn't there. But how did you navigate that? Having cameras and just...
I think we made a decision early on, because we're both incredibly private. Zwei is incredibly private as well still. And we just both made that decision that we're not going to say yes to everything, because people can ask.
100%.
Can you be on the cover? Can both of you come for an interview? Can both of you whatever? And I think we just decided early on that, we are separate people who had separate careers before we got together. And we want to try and keep the focus on what we do versus who we are as a unit.
100%.
And so that wasn't difficult to do. Like I say, he's also incredibly, he hates going out. So it would be like, there's this thing Friday. So I'd go alone. Or, so that's how I kind of avoid then always getting the attention and whatever, because like I'll go alone or he'll go alone to his thing or whatever. And saying, that's not us. We might do one cover of a magazine, but we're not on every cover every week all the time talking about what we had for lunch. Yeah.
What have you learned about yourself in a relationship, in a marriage, and now out of?
You're gonna need another SD card. How much time you got?
We're almost almost over.
Oh, we're almost over. Okay, very quickly. What have I learned about myself? So they're all interconnected. When you say who I was before, who I was during my marriage, and who I am after, is all connected. And the common thread, without a doubt, I always say, is there's no glory in self-sacrifice. There is no glory in it. And that comes from not somebody asking you to sacrifice yourself, but you thinking to yourself, if I do X and Y, this will show how great of a wife I am, how great of a mother, a partner, a girlfriend, a fiance, whatever it is. It may not be something you want to do, but you do it because you think the other person wants you to do it, right? And down the line, you resent that person for it. So for Zwa and myself, it's not that he ever said don't do or don't. He was absolutely not that kind of person.
100%.
But I thought to myself, to be a good wife or to be a good mother, I need to do X and Y. And then down the line, I'm like, but why are you not seeing all the things I'm doing? Like, what's happening?
I never asked.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying all of those things are connected, because I've now realized that who I was in my 20s is almost someone that I'm coming back to. The things that brought me joy and made me happy when I was in my 20s. I mean, my kids the last couple of years are like, geez, Mom, that's all you do is listen to music. And I'm like, yeah, because I love music. I went through a phase where I didn't, just because life and kids and busyness and, I don't know what's, but the last couple of years have been all about getting back to that. And I love going to concerts and events and festivals and, that's part of me.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. All of it is connected because I keep coming back to who I was in my 20s and the things I wanted to do. But also the lessons I've learned since then have played out through my marriage and are playing out now, in the sense that I can see where I went wrong, because I think that's a big part of it, is you need to be able to look back and acknowledge your accountability.
I think people don't do that. Hey?
Yes. Many people don't do that.
Because it's always quick to say, yeah, but they did and they didn't.
No.
Like, but there was two of you.
In a partnership, there's two of you.
Yes, 100%.
And yes, someone may do something wrong, but if you're there and you're allowing it or you're whatever, that is your role.
100%.
That's the accountability you need to take for it, right? So that in the last couple of years is, and divorce and all those things will do that for you, is if you're serious about healing from it, you will look back and say, right, where did this go wrong? How did I contribute to it? How did it fall apart? And if you're mature enough, apologizing for those things.
Oh, amen. Bells and whistles.
Yeah.
And I think for me, because what you're saying, as I mentioned before, that it's my year of yes. And part of that is also just being like, do the work. Because people don't want to do the work. Like,
huge.
When you need to sit down and look at yourself and say,
self-care isn't just bubble bath.
100%. And that's the thing. People just think it's like, oh my word, let me just,
put on a
face mask and then Instagram. And you're like,
It's not pretty.
Can you sit with yourself and just look at yourself in the mirror? Don't lose the camera. Put a mirror.
Yeah. And do you like yourself?
And do you, 100%.
I think that's big for me. The last couple of years have been transformational, because I look in the mirror now and I love what I see and who I've become. There was a period in my life where I didn't see myself at all. I was a mom, I was a wife, I was tired, I was, all these things all the time. And I put myself last. And so the last couple of years have been about saying, for me to be the best mom I can be, the best sister, the best friend, the best anything else to anybody else means I have to look after myself. It's the cliche of the oxygen mask, and
100%. 100%.
Right. And like you say, looking at the good, the bad, the ugly of your life. What have I done well? What have I done poorly? What could I have done better? And acknowledging that and getting into it. You know, I'm a big believer in therapy. When I was going through my divorce, I was in therapy. My dad died at the same time. So I was going, so it was just, there was a lot. And that's one of the things that also forced me onto a yoga mat, because I was just like, I need to have some sort of sense of sanity. So therapy and yoga helped me deal with who I was becoming, and loving who I am.
That's beautiful. And I think, you know, listening to what you're saying now, it's just like what I'm getting is society often, especially what the pressures are for women, is that you have to be a good wife and a good mother and all of this. And little is said about being a good friend to yourself. Because if you are present with self, everything else falls into place.
Sure.
So I think that's something we need to teach our younger women, to be like, work on you.
Yeah, you know, and it's in the little things about making time for your friends, for example. You know, my mom has said to me, we've had a conversation where my mom said to me, you know, I'm jealous that you have such a good group of girlfriends, even though at the time, you know, you're all married, but you guys make time for each other. Because she says it's so different from in my day. She said, you know, when I got married, that was it. My husband became my life. You know, and my girlfriends kind of fell by the wayside as everyone else got married. And so as she's older now, and my father's passed, she doesn't really have this circle of girlfriends to turn to because it was a different time. So yeah, you're very right. You're very right.
Okay. So, I mean, you've answered most of the questions I had. And it's funny, what I'm more liking is it's just how it just flowed into everything that I had in mind for this conversation. But before we wrap up, so I have a segment. This is the last segment where it's literally, I call the segment From Your Lips. So it's from my lips to your ears.
Right.
This part is where you just impart, or, you know, just say something or impart your knowledge, your wisdom, what you've learned. No pressure. Whatever you've learned, you know, and given the fact that we're titling this episode What I Know Now, you know, so what would be the one thing you impart to someone else from your lips to their ears?
You know, and I think I've touched on it now when I said there's no glory in self-sacrifice. And that applies to, like you say, all things. Whether it's in your career, whether it's in your friendships, whether it's in your, you know, all the sort of spheres of your life, whether you think to yourself, well, you know, if I stay at the office, you know, 5 hours extra, they're going to notice, but you don't actually tell people that I'm working extra, or you are sacrificing your mental health or your actual physical health for it. In your friendships, if you are always the person kind of saying, no, it's okay, even though you're hurt and you're,
I used to be that person.
Yeah, and then you're taking it on because you think they'll think what a good friend
100%,
I am.
100%.
You know? So that's definitely a common theme. That's one thing, is no glory in self-sacrifice, speak up for yourself, and honesty. I can't stress enough, I think, for me, about honesty, about being honest with yourself. Like I said, good, bad, and ugly. And honest with others. We struggle to be honest with others because we're worried about how it lands.
100%.
And you can be honest with somebody in a kind and gentle way. And honesty is always better than a deceit or a lie or a falsehood or a whatever. And it's weird. People don't like the truth, man.
Yeah, the truth
People
hurts.
don't like the truth. Even if you say it in the most gentle, loving way and from a gentle and loving place, very often people don't like to hear the truth. And I don't know if that's because to lie to ourselves makes things better, and you can deny that
100%, yes.
So you lie to yourself.
Because also we have filters now.
Yes.
So you know,
yes.
we're all living in that era where it's just like, I don't like this filter.
Throw it on.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, my friends are like, yo, Mel, you and the truth. I'm like, I'm alive though, guys. I mean, I've just posted a meme about saying, you know, I'm that friend. Like, if you're wrong, you're wrong. Be mad, but we'll talk later.
Yeah, 100%.
Because for me, honesty really is everything. And I think the reason I've been able to have a career as long as I have is I've always done and interacted with people and people around me, I feel, from a very honest place, whether I was feeling happy, sad, depressed, joyful, whatever else. You're going to see that.
Thank you so much. I feel like we can go on and on and on, but obviously we're already like out of memory. So thank you so much, Mel.
Thank you. I've loved this. I can't believe the time is up.
100%. And for me, you know, I remember meeting you properly last year. And this is me fanning out, right? Was sitting there and I said in my head, I'm like, oh my word, I'm sitting with my father. And then you asked me something and I responded, but in my head it was like, she noticed me. You know that when you know that cliche of like when the cool girl speaks to you, and I was just like,
oh
I'm
man,
doing something right.
Oh man,
you know,
you definitely are.
So thank you so much, and for coming in and
I've loved today,
gracing my show.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been so much fun. Like I said, we can do a part 2. I'm open to it.
I think okay, we'll definitely we'll put it on. But yeah, thank you so much. All the best.
Here's to your year of yeses.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
you so much. So yeah, thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Transcript with me, Tshiamo. And enjoy your Sunday. We're out.
With every moment, you are creating an impression. Make sure it's an impression by design. This is the Transcript with Tshiamo.